If you follow the channel, you might already know about my mission to play every Atlus RPG I can because I've loved nearly every game of theirs I've played so far. If you don't follow the channel, well then you're already caught up. I started my Atlus journey with Persona 5, and more recently I've been getting into the Shin Megami Tensei series properly. Check out my video on SMT3 if you haven't already. So naturally, when Atlus releases a brand new RPG from one of the lesser known SMT spin-offs on all modern consoles, I'm obviously going to play it and talk about it. So yeah, that's what this video is. You probably figured that out from the title and thumbnail, but still, I need an intro. Soul Hackers 2 just released about a week ago, or more depending on how long this video takes to make, and I have been slowly making my way through it. Let me start off with some background. The original Soul Hackers was released in 1997 and didn't see a Western release until the 3DS version in 2012. Soul Hackers is part of the Devil Summoner subseries of SMT, kinda like how Persona is its own subseries. And while Soul Hackers 2 has a 2 right there in the name, it isn't an exact sequel. Like with most of the numbered entries in Atlus series, Soul Hackers 2 isn't a direct sequel, rather another game in the series that uses similar elements in world building. All this to say you don't need to play the original in order to understand this one. You can go in having never played an SMT game and understand things easily enough to enjoy the story. That being said, if you can play the original, I say give it a shot. There's a lot of love for it from the community, except for me. I got bored and didn't finish it, but that's just me. Anyway, back to the topic of this video. Soul Hackers 2. Is it actually good? My answer? Yes it is. I really enjoyed my time with this game. I just really like the Atlus formula for these kinds of games, and this checks all the right boxes for me. Well, almost. It's got fun, tactical turn-based combat, where targeting weaknesses is greatly encouraged. It's got an interesting world to dive into with demons and devil summoners around every corner. It has great characters and a pretty good story overall. It all just kind of works for me. I'm easy to please, I guess. I should probably go into more detail since this is a review, so let's do that. So let's start with the combat. Unfortunately, the press turn system is not used in this game, and neither is the Persona system of giving you extra turns for hitting a weakness. This time around, hitting an enemy's weakness adds a point to the stack. At the end of the player's turn, they automatically use something called a Sabbath. The Sabbath is a big attack that hits every single enemy, and how powerful it is determined by how big your stack is by the end of your turn. If you have a stack of 1, it'll do a bit of damage, but if you have a stack of 5 or more, you're going to do a significant amount of damage. Later in the game, you can even unlock abilities that change how the stack is used, like focusing all of the damage onto one enemy to do the most amount of damage possible. Now, admittedly at first I wasn't really all that into this system. I much prefer the press turn system where you are rewarded and punished based on how well you hit enemy weaknesses and defend your own. And I think overall I still do prefer the press turn system, but as I played through Soul Hackers 2, the Sabbath grew on me quite a bit. It adds a different kind of tactical thinking to combat that I haven't really experienced in any other SMT games I've played. It is really satisfying to rack up a huge stack and just mop the floor with every bad guy in one fell swoop. It's kinda awesome. Other than that big change, the combat is basically the same as you've seen in other SMT games. You have a team of 4 devil summoners, each equipped with their own demon that allows them to use all different kinds of skills and abilities in turn-based combat. Aim for weaknesses and use every ability you can to your advantage to beat any baddies you come across. It seems pretty simple on the surface, but it gets much deeper than that the more you develop your demons and squad mates and the more threatening the enemies you face become. It's still as fun as ever. You can upgrade your combat abilities by fusing stronger and better demons. I still love fusing as much as ever, as well as upgrading your comp. The comp is the standard weapon of a Devil Summoner, and by upgrading it you can increase your attack power and unlock special bonus skills. The combat is always something I love about these games, and I'm glad to report that this game delivers, at least for me. The great thing about SMT games is how they all have the same basis for combat, but each game manages to make it its own. Soul Hackers 2 is no exception. As far as difficulty goes, I found the game to be surprisingly easy. I'm pretty sure I didn't lose a single main story boss fight in the whole game. I played on normal like I do with most games, and it was a bit challenging, but never really all that hard, at least as far as the story stuff goes. There are some bonus boss fights in the Soul Matrix that definitely provide more of a challenge if that's what you're after. Plus there are of course harder difficulties, along with an easy mode if you just want to experience the story. There is some DLC that is supposed to make the game way easier by giving a bunch of boosts, but it's $5 for some reason, and probably not worth it. Okay, well let's sidetrack for a second to briefly talk about something that has caused some contention among the fans: the Day 1 DLC. On top of the $60 game, Atlus released $40 worth of Day 1 DLC, which has fueled a lot of criticism. Some people see it as stripping content out of the base game and charging extra money for it just to make some more money, which is pretty valid honestly. An example of this is the bonus Demons DLC, which is full of demons that should probably just be in the game, like the Missa, who was a main character in her first Soul Hackers game. You can also purchase bonus costumes for the characters to wear based based on older SMT games like Persona 4 and the original Soul Hackers, that also include the battle music from said games. I actually really like this, but it would be significantly better to unlock them in-game rather than paying real-world money for it. It definitely sucks that we have to pay for this stuff, and it probably would have been received better if it was released later and for a lower price. None of the DLC really seems like it's worth the amount they're asking for. I think if I was going to get any of these, it would be the costume pack, but even then that's not very likely. It's a lame practice that is plaguing the gaming industry in general, and that's just whack. Alright, back to the actual game now. Let's talk about story. I like it. I think overall the story is great, and I absolutely adore the characters the story revolves around. Even the side characters are pretty cool, except for this guy sucks. I cannot stress enough how happy I am that Ringo is the protagonist. I'm at a point where I'm just kind of over the whole self-insert silent protagonist thing. It just doesn't do it for me. In their own games, the Persona protagonists are basically playable planks of wood, and while I get the appeal behind that, I just personally don't vibe with it. Don't get me wrong, I love Persona 3, 4, and 5 protagonists, but only because of the character and personality they are given outside of their own games. Luckily, in this game we get a full character with a great personality straight out the gate. I think this really adds a lot to the game, and I feel like the fanbase has been responding really well to her because of this. It's nice to see, and I hope Atlus keeps this trend going. Not every game needs a fully realized protagonist, but I definitely want to see more characters like Ringo in the future. Along for the ride alongside Ringo are Sad Boy Arrow, Smooth Talkin' Saizo, bit of an anger problem Milady, and Literally Born Yesterday Fig, who are all pretty great on their own. They do tend to fall a bit into certain archetypes, but the voice actors for all of them really give them life and make them likable. It helps that you see them grow and evolve over the course of the game in pretty meaningful ways. I don't want to get too much into spoilers since the game is still pretty new, but I will say that if you don't like these characters, then the story isn't really going to work for you. The story beats and twists really rely on you caring about these characters to drive forward. Admittedly, the story isn't all that creative at its core. The thing that makes this story special are the characters and their journeys. And if they don't resonate with you, then you really won't get all that much out of it. But if they do, I think it's a good story that'll keep you pretty hooked up until the end. It's not Atlus's best when it comes to story, but it's by no means bad. The story revolves around aforementioned characters as they try to prevent the end of the world. Ion, which is like a supercomputer on steroids built by another even stronger supercomputer, has predicted that the world is about to end and wants it to not do that. So they create two human vessels equipped with their own personalities to investigate. These two are Ringo and Fig. They set off to save the world and along the way form a team with Arrow, Saizo, and Milady, who all died horrible deaths and were brought back by Ringo using a method called soul hacking, like the name of the game. It's up to this ragtag group of misfits to save everybody. Like I said earlier, the story isn't all that, I don't know what the word is, advanced? The characters carry it. I also think the world of the game is interesting. There's this whole secret war going on between two factions of Devil Summoners, the Yagaratsu and the Phantom Society. Devil Summoners have like a whole society built within regular society, and that is really cool to see. It's kind of like the Assassin Underworld Society thing from John Wick, but with demons. It's a really neat concept, and I hope Atlus makes more Devil Summoner games in the future that explore this concept more. Now, let's get into the thing I think really holds this game back. The level design. It's just not very good. It's super basic, and the locations of the dungeons you'll be exploring are just lame as hell. Here, explore the shipping yard. Okay, now explore this office building. Here, now explore another shipping yard. All the dungeons are really short. Even the final one was surprisingly small compared to what I expected. The last dungeon is also the most interesting conceptually and visually, but like I said, it's really short. I just wish they had been more creative with the areas you actually do the gameplay part in. I think the city is well designed and the game has style overall, but the creativity was just not there with the level design / locations. Even the Soul Matrix, which I felt had a lot of potential, ends up falling really flat, at least in this regard. It's a cool concept, being a dungeon that literally has you exploring a physical manifestation of a human soul, but it just all kind of looks the same. None of this really ruins the game for me because I like all the other elements enough that I don't really mind how generic the dungeons are. It just would have made for a much more interesting playthrough if we got some really cool places to explore. Also, add a goddamn run button for Ringo. The dungeons would be way more sufferable if you could move through them faster. Just let her run. You could Naruto run in SMT5, do it here too. Atlus, come on. Anywho, let's end on something positive. Despite how boring it is visually, I actually really like the Soul Matrix as a concept. Basically, the Soul Matrix is a massive-ish dungeon broken up into 3 sections. Each section is devoted to one of the human characters that make up your squad. Arrow, Saizo, and Milady all have their own branch of the Soul Matrix. By exploring each respective branch and unlocking the gates within them, you also unlock an ability unique to that character. Like one of Saizo's gates allows him to sometimes use an item without actually losing that item. It's stuff that makes life easier as the game gets tougher. There is also a sort of social link element to the Soul Matrix as well. By building up a relationship with these characters through the story, you build up Ringo's soul level with them. This is is how you unlock the gates and get deeper into the soul matrix. It's like a playable social link in a way. As you clear out their soul matrix, you also see pivotal moments in their lives that help make them who they are now. I really like this mechanic because it allows you to build your relationship with the character by literally seeing what made them the way they are, as you also make them stronger in combat. I think it works really well, and I was always excited to unlock more gates and learn more about them. Overall, I like Soul Hackers 2, and we'll probably go back to finish all the side stuff I haven't done yet. At the same time, however, I can see why it's not for everyone. It's definitely not a bad game by any means, but I do see how some would find it to be a bit uninspired. In terms of impact and trying something new, I don't really think Soul Hacker 2 really does anything significant. It's just a pretty simple but good JRPG with a pretty good story, pretty good combat, and less than good level design. It's not Atlus at its best, but I don't think it's terrible. If you've never played an Atlus game or you're just a casual fan of RPGs, I think you'll have a good time with this game. It's a pretty good game overall, and I liked it. So yeah, thanks for watching this ramble that I'm gonna pretend was a review, and subscribe for more stuff like this in the future. I'll probably cover more Atlus titles in the future, so if that's your jam, hit that subscribe button. If there's anything you'd like to see me talk about or cover, then let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys at whatever I do next.